Hello, everybody. Thank you for returning to our YouTube channel. I am Brian. This is Matthew Creedican, former Navy SEAL. We are with Technology United for Ukraine. So if you'd like to join us, we look for engineers, scientists, technologists, anybody actually wants to help Ukraine. If you'd like to help us, we're all volunteer. We make innovative technologies for the military and for the Ukrainian civilians and Ukrainian military. Link is in the description. So let's get right into this, Matthew. We had some developments in the Kursk area. Obviously, a lot is going down. I am going to share this this screen, and I'm going to pull up an article here, and I want to kind of get your take on it. Ukrainian advances in Kursk, military commandant's office established. What is that?
Yeah, so it's basically just kind of a sign that Ukraine is, signaling that they're gonna be staying in that region. Basically, you need someone. It's like a governor or like a mayor type function, because you need someone to govern the area, right? So, and to govern basically govern the civilians in that area. So that's what it probably looks like they're doing. And yeah, like how much they plan on keeping. I think there was a mention by one of the Ukrainian members of parliament that they were basically wanted to establish a security zone to keep missile attacks and cross-border attacks. Basically have a security zone. So yeah, a little bit of smart politicking on their part to make those explanations. So yeah.
So very interesting. I'll get rid of this here. And let's go over to the map. Let me pull the map up and we'll get an idea, because there's a couple things I want to bounce off of. All right, so this is basically the overview of what's going on. We can see here, let me pull this up so I'll make this a little bit bigger. And then I'll get a detailed map of this area. It looks like down here, now there's reports, Matthew, that they are all the way out here. Now, I don't know how accurate that is. I'm going to pull that up and kind of get your take on whether you think they actually move that fast, or is this just the fog of war? This is the border here. So that village is all the way out here that I'm going to show that they're saying the Ukrainians are at. And that is in this map right here. And I am going to get rid of this stuff on the screen. That's here. If you look here, it says Ukrainian military presence reported in, I cannot say the name of this village, Vyazovoy village of Belgorod. All right, so I want to get your take. Is that possible? Do you believe they've moved that rapidly? Are they really all the way out here?
Look, there's most likely a bunch of recon units moving around, recon and like ambush groups. I think I mentioned previously, you want to send units out to scout ahead, set up ambush points, and basically keep the enemy off kilter. So when they try to move large amounts of troops forward and they pack them into a convoy, then you can call your HIMARS strikes or set up a devastating ambush. So it severely slows down their ability to move, because they have to move in like military formation or risk devastating attacks. So you want your scouts out front and the possibility of ambush always ever present. So that's probably what they have out there. Like what kind of force they have out there, hard to tell. You need to push those kind of forces out yourself so that the enemy can't return the favor, and you need to move. If and when you want to move larger forces forward, you already have kind of scouting elements that have cleared the way, at least to some degree. So, I would say that's likely what they have. There's, additional reports now coming out that, somewhere around the beginning of the offensive, the Ukrainians had like plainclothes scouts walking around as well, kind of reporting back information or setting systems up. So, it all makes sense.
So Matthew, I just highlighted here so everybody could see it. This is the main route road that goes from Kursk to Belgorod, and this is about where that village is. So it looks like they're probably trying to cut off logistics between these two cities. Get here and cut off. So you're saying that there probably could be a lot of special operators, over here to prevent convoys and supplies going between these cities, correct?
I mean, it would make sense. It would make sense. You set up some type of threat on those lines and establish some kind of control. It might not be present all the time, but you have to have that threat. So now they have to spread their forces out and spend a lot of time in clearing operations to keep that threat back. So whether you have a couple pieces of artillery set up to ambush it, or easier and better to have HIMAR type systems, that can just sit back, launch, and move. Those are all possibilities.
Now, what's interesting here, and I know we've talked about this multiple times, is if they establish, I'm going to circle here. This is where the Russians have the Kharkiv offensive, where they busted across the Ukrainian border some months ago. But if they're here, if we can say they're gaining control of the rear, I mean, this this should be within fire control distance to the rear of this, right? They could set up artillery here. If I'm not incorrect, would that be feasible?
Not like substantial artillery. That's, okay. I'm pretty sure, like, you're gonna get, like, off your 777s and stuff, like, roughly rule of thumb, like 30 kilometers.
Okay.
For like 155, 152 type stuff. It's even less than that. Like, if you have specialized rounds, you maybe can get a little bit further.
So just to give people perspective of that, so I correct myself here. If we're here, if we look at the key here, it says 30 kilometers is roughly right about here. And obviously they're going to have the artillery more in the rear. And so it would limit that. So they would have to literally get up to, like, in this area right here to really be an artillery threat, correct, to the rear.
Right. Now, like, if you have an ATACMS or something like that, then you can reach significantly farther. But yeah, like, you're not going to have a lot of those, let's say. So for your kind of bog standard stuff, you're like 10 kilometers, 30 kilometers for your bigger stuff. So when you're looking at this zoomed out of a map, you have to get relatively close. Looking at that map.
So I'm going to blow this up for you, Matthew, here. So a little bit more, maybe right about there. So this is where the Ukrainians are currently, that we know of. Like, this is changing hour to hour. There are reports that they're way out in this area here, way out here. I mean, obviously they're not telling us because they're not going to OPSEC. And I know the deep state map was told, please don't post too much stuff. We want to keep everything tight-lipped. But this is a significant area from where they started. I mean, again, if we look at the key here, 5 miles, 5 kilometers, they're probably, what do you think here, about 35 miles out from where they entered to the furthest point from here to there?
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's kind of interesting because it seems like a long way, but at the same time, like, on an open highway, that's 30 something minutes of driving. So it's like long ways, but not a long ways.
It remains to be seen how far they're going to go, because this, like you're saying, and we were talking about earlier, there can be a lot they can do at this area. Fire control stuff. They could bring in HIMARS, and reach deeper into Russia, whether it's allowed. There is debate on how much of allied weapons they'll be able to use inside of Russia. So that's going to be an interesting debate coming up. Now, we were also talking about, you and I, this here. Where is it here? Right here. There was an attack next to the carriage bridge down in Crimea where they hit that Pantsir, which, What are you seeing here when you see in them strike the Panzer? You were explaining to me what that does and how it interacts with taking down HIMARS and stuff like that. Can you talk
Yeah,
about
so
that in detail?
the Panzer system is like their close-in anti-air system. So it has, I think, 12 missiles on it, interceptor missiles, and it's got two 30-millimeter cannon, radar guided, um, fused rounds. So the cannons can probably reach out to about 2,000 meters, but not very effectively. I'd say like probably more effective range, like 1,000 meter effective range against moving aerial targets. It has a good depression range, so you can go down. Like if some systems are try to fly in low, it could has the potential to hit them. The missiles have been upgraded over time, so they were made to be low cost missiles for that system particularly. And I think you could probably debate this on some different levels, but say about $100,000 per missile coming off that thing. But they're made to be made in relatively high quantities. How many they've actually turned out for that system, I'm not 100% sure. But that system is sold to multiple countries and has had decent success. The Israelis made fun of it a few years ago when I was in Syria, and they blew one up with a drone. So they were kind of like making fun of the system in general. But because it's exclusively an anti-drone system, like it could potentially hit HIMARS and other missiles that are coming in. And I think it may have had some success. The Russians claim lots of success, but it's kind of skeptical. And that's primarily a radar guided missile on that thing, which probably, well, I'm not going to get into other aspects of it. But so if they're hitting that, it means they're trying to take apart. Like one, they did a good job of reconnaissance, which is probably not as easy as it used to be because they generally try to hide these things. Just put them kind of slightly in between buildings and put camouflage up, or they know their primary target zone. If they're hitting that, that probably means there's additional like S-300, S-400 systems, because that you basically put that in to protect your other expensive systems from getting hit by drones and different missile attack systems. So if one of those is around, it probably also means there's some valuable stuff in that general area, because they layer their defenses for like if they have, say, an ammo dump or some primary command node, then they're going to have layers of defense around that. So that would be one of the interior layers. So you're going to have like your S-400s outside of that, and then inside of that you're going to have this. You probably have some of your bigger jamming systems, like your Pole 21 might be nearby, and that's like your GPS jammer, what they call GNSS, which is about 1.55 gigahertz around there. So that's to stop the satellite navigated systems. It does other jamming as well.
What do you think they hit it with? How did they get?
I don't know. It's a good question. Is what they hit it with. You could there's the thing is these things are not. It's like the operator has to have the thing on. They have to be ready, and if you happen to have a low flying munition that was close enough to the ground and the word didn't come to turn the thing on in time, you got to realize, like any of these systems, if you're not actively engaged in a day-to-day hostile environment, like these guys, every day you have to go to work, you have to sit there waiting for something to happen, and they probably haven't been shot at in weeks, and it's just any other day, and then something shows up, you have 30 seconds to get your shit together, and these guys are fucking out taking a piss somewhere.
Complacency, right?
Yeah. It's like it's very, very hard to that is a huge factor in any of this kind of stuff. So, it could have been looking the wrong way, could have had it shut off, could have been up for maintenance, could have been they used some terrain masking, they could have used a slightly different drone that had a different makeup, and the radar signature didn't register with it right away. They could have used some kind of, and well, there's some other stuff I get into, but I'm not. There's some other ways you could possibly defeat it. So yeah, who knows? But
Do you think it was an attack-ims? Can attack-ims penetrate all that stuff, or would that be?
it could. Yeah, sure. Like, would they want to spend it on that? Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's a few $1,000,000 system. I forget what exactly it costs, but it is kind of integral to the defense of that region. So if you're kind of in a larger shaping operation, it might be worth spending a expensive missile to take something like that out. Yeah. So, I mean, you have there's more and more visual navigation systems coming online. So you could have had some type of visual, like radio silent system come in where maybe they picked it up with satellite imagery. Maybe they picked it up with, okay, I won't go into the other pieces. Maybe they picked it up with one thing or another, and then they sent the drone in, or a number of drones in, and maybe they just overwhelmed it with stuff. Like, there's lots of ways to play the game. Maybe they had decoys, and it shot at the decoys, and then they located it, and then right on the back of the decoys, other stuff came in. So a lot of times what the Russians have been doing, like, a single system is not necessarily all that effective against kind of like drones. But at one point early in the war, out near the one of the peninsulas off of Crimea, they put 6 of them all together in the same area. And I'm pretty sure the Ukrainians tried a few tricks here and there, and they shot everything down. So when they're up and running and functioning in overlapping fields, like they are potentially an effective system. So good for them if they're able to blow one up. It means the Ukrainians are doing something right.
Well, appreciate your insight as usual. Everybody, remember, we're going to be trying to post these every day. So remember to return, and we're part of Technology United for Ukraine. Links in the description if you'd like to join our organization. I'll be putting some videos out soon of some stuff we did with NAFO, one of our guys over there who's doing a great job. So check that video out next. And Slava Ukraini, everybody. Thank you.